"You can sit over there," my sister said, pointing to an empty corner of the table. Her husband smirked. Then the check came. $1,800. I looked at it, smiled a little, and said, "Not my problem. My name is Sarah and I'm 26 years old. I work as a physical therapist in Denver, Colorado, helping people recover from injuries and surgeries. I've always loved my job because it feels meaningful, and I've built a decent life for myself. I rent a small one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. I have good friends, and I've learned to stand on my own 2 feet. But my relationship with my family, especially my older sister Nicole, has always been complicated. Nicole is 31, married to a guy named Ryan, and together they live in what I can only describe as a carefully curated fantasy. They post constantly on social media about their expensive dinners, their designer clothes, their weekend trips to luxury resorts. Everything is for show. Everything is about status. And for as long as I can remember, Nicole has treated me like I'm somehow beneath her because I don't live the same way. Growing up, we weren't close. Nicole was the older, prettier, more popular sister. I was the quiet one who spent too much time studying and not enough time trying to impress people. Our parents adored Nicole. They praised her looks, her confidence, the way she could command a room. Meanwhile, I was just there, the reliable one, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one who was easy to overlook. When Nicole got married 4 years ago, she made it clear that her new life was on a different level. She stopped calling me unless she needed something. She stopped including me in family events unless it was absolutely necessary. And when she did invite me, it was always with this underlying message: "You don't belong here, but I'm being generous by letting you come." I tried not to let it bother me. I focused on my work, on building my own life, on being happy without needing her approval. But deep down, it stung. It stung every time she made a snide comment about my job, my apartment, my clothes. It stung every time she acted like I was an embarrassment. About 7 months ago, things started to change. Nicole began calling me more often. At first, I thought maybe she was finally making an effort to reconnect. Maybe she wanted to repair our relationship. But it didn't take long to realize what was really happening. She needed money. It started small. She called one afternoon, her voice sweet and apologetic, saying she and Ryan were a little short that month and could I help them out with a few hundred. She promised to pay me back within a week. I hesitated, but she was my sister. I wanted to believe she was being genuine, so I transferred the money. A week passed, then 2, then a month. She never paid me back. Then she called again. This time it was for car repairs. Another 500. Again she promised to pay me back. Again she didn't. Over the course of 7 months, I lent Nicole almost $4,000. Every time she had a reason. Every time she promised to pay me back. Every time she never did. I kept a record of every transaction. I saved every text message, every promise, every excuse. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but some instinct told me to keep track. The more I helped her, the worse she treated me. It was like she resented me for having money to lend her. She started making comments about how I must be doing better than I let on, how I was probably hiding money, how I should be more generous since she was family. She made me feel guilty for not giving her even more. Last week she called me out of the blue. Her tone was cheerful, almost too cheerful. She said she wanted to take me out to dinner to thank me for everything I'd done. She said it was time to celebrate our sisterhood and spend some quality time together. She even mentioned that Ryan wanted to get to know me better. I was skeptical. Nicole doesn't do anything without a reason, but a small part of me wanted to believe she was being sincere. Maybe she really did want to make things right. Maybe she was finally acknowledging everything I'd done for her. She told me to meet her at an upscale steakhouse in Lodo, the kind of place where the menu doesn't list prices and the wine list is thicker than a phone book. I felt uneasy about it, but I agreed. I wore a nice dress, did my hair, and tried to go in with an open mind. When I arrived, Nicole and Ryan were already seated at a large table near the window. There were 2 other couples with them, people I didn't know. Nicole waved me over with a big smile, but as I approached, I noticed something off. The table was full. Every seat was taken except for one in the corner, away from everyone else. "You can sit over there," Nicole said, gesturing to the empty corner seat like it was the most natural thing in the world. Ryan smirked. The other couples exchanged glances but said nothing. I stood there for a moment, holding my purse, feeling the weight of humiliation settle over me. This wasn't a thank you dinner. This was another performance. Another way for Nicole to show everyone that I didn't belong. I sat down in the corner seat without saying a word. The chair felt cold and distant, like I was sitting at a separate table altogether. The conversation flowed around me, loud and animated. But I wasn't included. Nicole held court at the center, laughing too loudly at Ryan's jokes, touching his arm in that exaggerated way she always did when she wanted people to see how happy they were. I picked up the menu and tried to focus on the options. Everything was expensive. Appetizers started at $30. Entrees ranged from $50 to $100. The wine list was absurd. I wasn't planning to order much. I didn't want to contribute to whatever spectacle this was turning into. Ryan ordered a bottle of wine for the table. $200. Nicole ordered oysters as an appetizer. The other couples followed suit, ordering expensive cocktails, seafood towers, steaks. Nicole kept encouraging everyone to order more, to try the specials, to indulge. She was playing the role of the generous hostess, and everyone was eating it up. I ordered a salad and water. Nicole glanced at me, her smile tight. "That's all you're getting? Come on, Sarah, live a little. This is a celebration." "I'm fine," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes and turned back to the group. "My sister is always so practical. She doesn't know how to enjoy herself." The table laughed. I felt my face burn, but I kept my expression neutral. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset. The dinner dragged on. The conversation revolved around vacations, new cars, designer handbags. Nicole made sure everyone knew about the trip she and Ryan were planning to the Caribbean. She talked about the private villa they'd rented, the yacht they'd be sailing on, the spa treatments she'd already booked. It was all so performative, so calculated to impress. At one point, one of the other women asked me what I did for work. Before I could answer, Nicole cut in. "Oh, Sarah's a physical therapist. She works with old people and athletes. It's sweet, really. Very humble." The way she said humble made it sound like an insult, like my job was something to be pitied. "It's actually really fulfilling," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I help people regain their mobility and independence. It's rewarding." Nicole waved a hand dismissively. Sure. Not everyone can have a glamorous career." I didn't respond. There was no point. Nicole wasn't interested in a real conversation. She just wanted to put me down in front of her friends. As the evening wore on, I started to notice something. Nicole kept glancing at her phone, and whenever she did, her expression tightened. Ryan seemed tense, too. At one point, they excused themselves to the restroom together, and when they came back, Nicole's smile looked forced. I wondered if something was wrong, but I didn't ask. I just wanted the night to be over. Finally, dessert was served. Nicole ordered a chocolate soufflé for the table to share. More champagne was poured. The bill was going to be astronomical, and I had a sinking feeling about what was coming next. When the waiter brought the check, he placed it in the center of the table. Everyone glanced at it, then looked away. The silence was awkward. Nicole picked up the check, her eyes scanning the total, and then she set it down with a dramatic sigh. $1,800, she announced, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Well, that's what happens when you celebrate properly. She looked around the table expectantly, but no one reached for their wallet. The other couples shifted uncomfortably. It became clear that they thought Nicole and Ryan were covering the bill. Nicole's smile faltered. She glanced at Ryan, who shrugged. Then she looked at me. Sarah, why don't you take care of this? You've been so generous lately. Consider it your contribution to the evening. I stared at her. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. This was the real reason she'd invited me. She'd orchestrated this entire dinner, invited these people, ordered all this expensive food and wine, and now she expected me to pay for it. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. The other couples looked embarrassed, like they wanted to disappear. Ryan smirked, clearly enjoying the show. For a moment, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to storm out. But then something else took over. A cold, calm clarity. I picked up the check. I looked at the total, $1,800. Then I looked at Nicole and I smiled. Not my problem, I said. I set the check back down on the table and stood up. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Nicole's voice rise in panic. Sarah, get back here. You can't just leave. But I kept walking. I didn't look back. I didn't hesitate. I walked out of that restaurant and into the cool night air. And for the first time in months, I felt free. Nicole called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. Ryan sent me a string of angry text messages calling me selfish and ungrateful. I blocked him. Nicole left voicemails, her tone shifting from anger to desperation to guilt-tripping. I deleted them all. I knew this wasn't over. I knew Nicole wouldn't let this go. But I also knew something else. I was done being her doormat. The next morning, I woke up to 32 missed calls and twice as many text messages. Most of them were from Nicole, but a few were from our mom. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through them. Nicole had already gotten to her. I called my mom back, bracing myself for what was coming. Sarah, what on earth were you thinking? She said the moment she picked up. Nicole told me what you did. How could you embarrass her like that? I took a deep breath. Mom, did she tell you that she invited me to dinner just so she could stick me with an $1,800 bill? There was a pause. She said it was supposed to be a family dinner. She said you offered to pay. I never offered to pay. She assumed I would. She's been using me for months, Mom. She's borrowed almost $4,000 from me and hasn't paid back a single cent. Another pause. Longer this time. Well, she's your sister. You should help her when she needs it. I did help her over and over, and she never once thanked me. She just kept asking for more. My mom sighed. That same tired sigh she always made when she didn't want to deal with conflict. Sarah, I don't want to get involved in whatever is going on between you two. Just try to work it out. She's family. She treats me like garbage, Mom. And you're taking her side without even hearing my side of the story. I'm not taking sides. I just think you're both adults, and you should figure this out. I hung up. There was no point in continuing the conversation. My mom had always favored Nicole, always made excuses for her, always expected me to be the understanding one, the forgiving one, the one who bent over backward to keep the peace. I spent the rest of the day trying to distract myself with work. I had back-to-back appointments with patients, and I threw myself into helping them. It felt good to focus on something productive, something that mattered. But in the back of my mind, I kept replaying the dinner, the humiliation, the manipulation, the assumption that I would just roll over and do whatever Nicole wanted. That evening, I got a text from Nicole. It was different from her previous messages, less angry, more calculated. Sarah, I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. Can we talk? I really need to explain something to you. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to tell her to leave me alone, but another part of me was curious. What could she possibly say to justify what she'd done? I texted back. Fine, coffee tomorrow, noon. The place on Larimer Street. She responded immediately. Thank you. I'll be there. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. I ordered a black coffee and sat in a corner booth watching the door. Nicole arrived right on time, dressed in one of her designer outfits, her makeup perfect. She spotted me and walked over, her expression carefully neutral. Hi, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Hi. She ordered a latte from the waiter, then folded her hands on the table. I know you're mad at me. That's an understatement. She sighed. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean for things to go the way they did. I just thought it would be nice to have everyone together and things got expensive and I panicked. You didn't panic. You planned this. You invited all those people. You ordered the most expensive things on the menu, and then you tried to dump the bill on me. I was hoping you'd help out. You've been so generous. And I thought, you thought what? That I'd just keep giving you money forever. That I wouldn't notice you never pay me back. Her jaw tightened. I've been planning to pay you back. Things have just been tight. Tight? You're planning a trip to the Caribbean. You just bought a new handbag that costs more than my rent. Don't lie to me, Nicole. She looked away, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. Fine. You want the truth? Ryan and I are broke. We're drowning in debt. We've been living off credit cards for the past year, and we're maxed out. We can't keep up with the payments. The trip, the dinners, the clothes, it's all for show. It's all fake. I stared at her. And you thought the solution was to take money from me. You're the only person I could ask. Mom and Dad don't have anything. My friends would judge me if they knew the truth. You were the only option. So, you used me. I didn't use you. I needed help. You used me, I repeated, my voice firm. You didn't ask for help. You manipulated me. You made me feel guilty. You treated me like I was beneath you. And then you had the audacity to expect me to bail you out. She didn't say anything. She just sat there, her expression shifting between guilt and defensiveness. I want my money back, I said. All of it. $4,000. She laughed bitterly. I don't have $4,000. Then you better figure it out because I'm done being your personal ATM. She leaned forward, her voice dropping. You're really going to do this? You're going to turn your back on your own sister? You turned your back on me a long time ago. You just didn't notice because you were too busy using me. I stood up, leaving my half-finished coffee on the table. I'll give you 2 weeks to come up with the money. If you don't, I'm taking legal action. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. Try me. I walked out of the coffee shop, leaving her sitting there alone. My hands were shaking, but I felt strong. For the first time in years, I wasn't backing down. 2 weeks passed and Nicole didn't contact me once. I checked my bank account every day, hoping to see a deposit. Nothing. I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed. Part of me had hoped she'd prove me wrong, that she'd actually take responsibility for once. On the 15th day, I got a text from her. Can we meet, please? I have something to tell you. I agreed to meet her at a park near my apartment. It was a public space, Neutral territory. I didn't want to deal with another scene at a restaurant or coffee shop. When I arrived, Nicole was already there, sitting on a bench. She looked terrible. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face bare of makeup. She was wearing jeans and a plain sweater. I'd never seen her look so ordinary. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down beside her. "Do you have my money?" She shook her head. "No, I don't. But I need to explain something to you." I crossed my arms. "Go ahead." She took a deep breath. "Ryan left me." I blinked. "What?" "He left 3 days ago. He said he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. He said he was tired of pretending, tired of the debt, tired of everything. He packed a bag and moved in with his brother." I didn't know what to say. I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it was quickly overshadowed by frustration. "I'm sorry, Nicole, but that doesn't change the fact that you owe me money." I know, but I don't have it. I don't have anything. The credit cards are all maxed out. The bank accounts are empty. Ryan took his half of what little savings we had left. I'm completely broke." "Then get a job. Sell your stuff. Figure it out." She laughed, but it was hollow. "I've been trying. I applied to a dozen places. No one wants to hire me. I don't have any real skills. I've been a housewife for 4 years. And all the designer stuff? It's fake. Knockoffs. I can't sell it for anything." I stared at her. "You've been pretending this whole time." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. Everything was fake. The trips, the clothes, the lifestyle. We were just trying to keep up appearances. We thought if we looked successful, we'd eventually become successful. But it all fell apart. I wanted to feel bad for her. I really did. But all I could think about was how she'd dragged me into her mess, how she'd used me to prop up her fake life. "Nicole, you made your choices. You chose to live beyond your means. You chose to lie to everyone. You chose to take money from me and never pay it back. I can't fix this for you. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm just asking for more time. I gave you 2 weeks. You didn't even try." "I did try. I just don't have the money." "Then we're going to court." Her face crumpled. "Please, Sarah, don't do this. I'm your sister. You keep saying that like it means something, but you've never treated me like a sister. You've treated me like a convenience." She wiped her eyes. "I know I've been terrible to you. I know I don't deserve your help. But I'm begging you. Please don't take me to court. It'll destroy what's left of my life." I stood up. "You destroyed your own life, Nicole. I'm just protecting mine." I walked away, leaving her crying on the bench. My chest felt tight, but I didn't look back. I couldn't let guilt control me anymore. Over the next few days, I contacted a lawyer. I explained the situation, showed him the records I'd kept, every transaction, every text message, every promise Nicole had made. He told me I had a solid case for small claims court. "You've documented everything," he said. "That's going to work in your favor. Just be prepared for it to get messy. Family cases always do." I filed the paperwork. A court date was set for 6 weeks out. I sent Nicole a formal notice through the court. She had the option to settle before the hearing, but I doubted she would. In the meantime, I tried to go about my life as normally as possible. I focused on my patients, went to the gym, spent time with friends. But the situation with Nicole hung over me like a dark cloud. I couldn't stop thinking about it. One evening, I got a call from my mom. "Sarah, I heard you're taking Nicole to court. Is that true?" "Yes." "How could you do that to your own sister?" "She owes me $4,000. Mom, she's had months to pay me back and she hasn't. She's going through a divorce. She's struggling. Can't you be more understanding?" I've been understanding for years. I'm done. You're being selfish. That word hit me like a slap. Selfish. I lent her thousands of dollars. I helped her over and over, and she never once thanked me. She never once treated me with respect. How am I the selfish one? Because family is supposed to help each other. Then where was she when I needed help? Where was she when I was struggling to pay rent last year? Where was she when I asked her to help me move? She was nowhere. She only shows up when she needs something from me. My mom sighed. I just think you're making a mistake. That's your opinion, but I'm not changing my mind. I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were trembling. I felt angry and hurt and exhausted. It seemed like no matter what I did, I was the one being painted as the villain. A few days later, I received a strange email. The subject line read, "You need to see this." I opened it. There was no message, just a link to a social media post. I clicked it and found myself on Nicole's profile. She'd posted a long, rambling message about how she was being attacked by her own family. She didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious who she was talking about. She painted herself as the victim, someone who was down on her luck and being kicked while she was already on the ground. The comments were full of sympathy. People I didn't know were calling me heartless, calling me cruel, telling Nicole to stay strong. I felt sick. She was trying to manipulate public opinion to turn people against me before the court date. It was classic Nicole, always playing the victim, always twisting the truth. But I had something she didn't have. I had the truth, and I had proof. The next few weeks were brutal. Nicole continued her social media campaign, posting updates about her struggles, her heartbreak, her financial ruin. She never mentioned the money she owed me. She never mentioned the years of manipulation. She just painted herself as a woman who'd been abandoned by everyone, including her own sister. I wanted to respond. I wanted to post the screenshots, the transaction records, the proof that she'd been lying. But my lawyer advised against it. "Don't engage," he said. "Let her dig her own grave. When we get to court, the facts will speak for themselves." So, I stayed silent. But it was hard. It was hard watching people believe her lies. It was hard seeing mutual acquaintances take her side without knowing the full story. My mom called again. This time, she was angry. "I saw what you're doing to Nicole. Everyone's talking about it. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for our family?" "I'm not doing anything to Nicole. She's doing this to herself. You're taking her to court over money. Family doesn't sue family. Family doesn't steal from family either. She didn't steal. She borrowed. Borrowing means you pay it back. She never intended to." My mom's voice turned cold. "If you go through with this, you're going to regret it. You're going to tear this family apart." This family was already torn apart. "Mom, you just didn't notice because it was convenient to ignore it." She hung up on me. I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, feeling completely alone. My sister hated me. My mom had taken her side. I didn't even bother reaching out to my dad because I knew he'd just echo whatever my mom said. The only person who understood was my friend Megan. She'd been supportive from the beginning, listening to me vent, encouraging me to stand my ground. "You're doing the right thing," she said one night over dinner. "Your family is toxic. They've been using you for years." "I know, but it still hurts." "Of course it hurts. But that doesn't mean you should back down. You deserve to be treated with respect." I nodded, but the weight of everything felt crushing. A week before the court date, something unexpected happened. I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello. Hi. Is this Sarah?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "My name is Claire. I'm Ryan's sister." I froze. "Ryan's sister?" "Yeah. Look, I know this is weird, but I need to talk to you. It's about Nicole. What about her? Can we meet? I don't want to do this over the phone. I agreed, more out of curiosity than anything else. We met at a quiet diner the next afternoon. Claire was a few years older than Ryan with a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat down across from me and got straight to the point. I heard about the lawsuit, she said. Ryan told me about it, and I think you should know something. What? Nicole has been lying to you. Not just about the money, about everything. I leaned forward. What do you mean? Claire pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. They were between Ryan and Nicole, dated over the past several months. The messages revealed a pattern of planning, scheming, and manipulation. They deliberately targeted me, knowing I had savings. They'd crafted a strategy to borrow as much as they could with no intention of paying it back. One message from Nicole read, "Sarah's so easy to guilt. Just play the family card and she'll hand over whatever we need." Another from Ryan, "We should milk this as long as we can. She won't say no." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Why are you showing me this? Because Ryan is an idiot, but Nicole's a snake. She manipulated him just as much as she manipulated you. When things fell apart, she blamed him for everything. She told people he was abusive, that he controlled the finances, that everything was his fault. None of it's true. He's staying with me now, and he's a mess. I don't want her to get away with destroying him and you. Why didn't he say anything before? He was ashamed. He knew what they were doing was wrong, but he went along with it because he loved her. He thought they could fix things. But Nicole was never interested in fixing anything. She just wanted to maintain her image. I stared at the messages, my hands shaking. Can I have copies of these? That's why I'm here. I already sent them to your email. I looked up at her. Thank you. She nodded. Nicole's been playing victim for too long. It's time someone held her accountable. After Claire left, I forwarded the messages to my lawyer. He called me an hour later. "This changes everything," he said. "This is proof of intentional fraud. She's not just going to owe you the money, she could face criminal charges." I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. Vindication because I finally had undeniable proof that I wasn't crazy, that Nicole had been using me all along. Sadness because this was my sister, and it had come to this. The court date arrived. I dressed carefully, opting for a simple blouse and slacks, professional, calm, composed. I arrived at the courthouse early and sat in the waiting area, my folder of evidence in my lap. Nicole showed up 10 minutes late, wearing one of her nicer outfits. She looked nervous. When she saw me, she quickly looked away. We were called into the courtroom. The judge, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, reviewed the case summary and asked us to present our sides. I went first, laying out the timeline of loans, the promises, the lack of repayment. I showed the transaction records, the text messages, the emails. My lawyer presented everything methodically, clearly, factually. Then it was Nicole's turn. She started with a sob story talking about her divorce, her struggles, her financial ruin. She tried to paint me as heartless, as someone who was kicking her while she was down. But then my lawyer presented the messages from Claire, the ones showing the deliberate planning, the manipulation, the intent to deceive. The judge's expression hardened as she read them. Nicole's face went pale. She tried to stammer an explanation, but the judge cut her off. "This is clear evidence of fraud. Not only will you repay the full amount, but you'll also be subject to penalties. I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff." Nicole's lawyer whispered something to her, and she slumped in her chair. The judge ordered Nicole to repay me in full within 90 days with interest and court costs. If she failed, her wages would be garnished, and additional legal action would follow. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in months. The weight of uncertainty, of constant manipulation, of always being the one who had to bend. It was finally gone. I'd won. Not just the case, but something bigger. I'd stood up for myself against someone who'd spent years making me feel small. Nicole didn't look at me as we left. She and her lawyer walked quickly toward the parking lot, her shoulders hunched, her face hidden behind oversized sunglasses. I didn't try to talk to her. There was nothing left to say. My lawyer shook my hand outside the courthouse. "Congratulations. You handled that with a lot of grace." "Thank you for everything," I said. "I couldn't have done this without you. You did the hard part. You kept records. You stayed calm and you didn't let anyone bully you into backing down. That takes real strength." I drove home in a daze, my mind replaying the judge's words over and over. It was real. It was done. Nicole would have to pay me back. And if she didn't, there would be consequences that had nothing to do with me. The court would handle it. When I got home, I called Megan. "I won," I said as soon as she picked up. "I knew you would. How do you feel?" "Relieved. Exhausted. Kind of sad, honestly." "Sad?" "Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I stood up for myself, but it's still my sister. I wish things had been different." "I know. But you can't control other people's choices. You can only control your own. And you made the right choice." We talked for a while longer, and by the time I hung up, I felt a little better. Megan was right. I'd done what I needed to do. I'd protected myself. That wasn't something to feel guilty about. Over the next few days, word spread about the lawsuit. My mom called, furious. How could you humiliate Nicole like that in court? In front of a judge? She humiliated herself, Mom. She committed fraud. The judge said so. So, you've ruined her life. No, she ruined her own life. I just refused to let her ruin mine too. My mom didn't call again after that. Neither did my dad. It hurt, but I wasn't surprised. They'd chosen their side a long time ago. A week after the court ruling, I received an envelope in the mail. It was from Nicole. Inside was a check for $1,000 and a short note. "This is all I can manage right now. I'll send more when I can. I'm sorry for everything." I stared at the note for a long time. The apology felt hollow, like something she wrote because she had to, not because she meant it. But the check was real. It was a start. I deposited it and sent her a brief email acknowledging receipt. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Another 2 weeks passed and I started to notice changes in my life without the constant stress of Nicole's manipulation. I felt calmer, happier. I had more energy to focus on my work, my friends, my hobbies. I started going to a yoga class on Saturday mornings. I spent more time reading. I even started dating again, something I'd put on hold for months because I'd been too drained to invest in anything new. One evening, I ran into an old college friend, Lauren, at a bookstore. We'd lost touch over the years, but we spent an hour catching up over coffee. She told me about her life, her career as a graphic designer, her recent move to Denver. "I've been meaning to reach out," she said. "I saw on social media that you're a physical therapist now. That's amazing." "Thanks. I love it. Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "Yeah," I said slowly. "I am. It's been a rough few months, but I'm in a good place now." She smiled. "You seem different, more confident. I like it." Her words stayed with me. I did feel different, stronger, more sure of myself. Standing up to Nicole hadn't just been about the money. It had been about refusing to accept being treated as less than I deserved. About a month after the court case, I received another payment from Nicole. $500. Then another 2 weeks later, $400. She was paying me back in small increments, but she was paying. I didn't reach out to thank her or acknowledge the payments beyond confirming receipt. Our relationship, whatever it had been, was over. One Saturday afternoon, I was grocery shopping when I ran into Ryan. He looked thinner, older. We made eye contact, and for a moment I thought he'd walk past me without saying anything, but he stopped. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Hi, I heard about the court case. Claire told me she talked to you." "Yeah." He shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry for everything. I know I was part of it. I should have stood up to Nicole. I should have stopped it before it got that bad." I nodded. "You should have." "I know. I was a coward. I just wanted to keep her happy and I didn't think about who was getting hurt in the process." "Well, now you know." He looked down. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you took her to court. She needed to face consequences. She never has before." "Yeah, I figured that out." We stood there for another moment, the silence heavy and uncomfortable. Then he nodded and walked away. I watched him go, feeling nothing. No anger, no pity, no relief, just emptiness. That chapter of my life was closed. By the time Nicole finished paying me back, nearly 5 months had passed since the court case. The final payment arrived with no note, no message, just a check for the remaining balance. I deposited it and sent a single-line email. "Debt repaid in full. No further contact necessary." She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. I never saw Nicole again. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to Phoenix, started working in retail, and was slowly rebuilding her life. I didn't follow her on social media. I didn't ask for updates. She was no longer my concern. My relationship with my parents never recovered. They reached out once months later with a vague invitation to Thanksgiving dinner. I politely declined. They didn't push. I think they knew the damage was permanent. But I was okay with that. I'd built a life for myself that didn't depend on their approval or Nicole's drama. I had good friends, meaningful work, and a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. And I'd learned something important. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who are supposed to love you, but you don't owe them your pain. You don't owe them forgiveness. You only owe yourself the dignity of walking away. 6 months after the court case, I was living a completely different life. I'd moved to a nicer apartment closer to work, a bright one-bedroom with large windows that let in plenty of natural light. I decorated it exactly how I wanted, with plants on every windowsill and artwork I'd chosen myself. It felt like mine in a way my old place never had. My career was thriving too. I'd been promoted to senior physical therapist at my clinic, which came with a raise and more responsibility. I was supervising newer therapists, helping design treatment programs, and working with some of our most challenging cases. The work was demanding, but it was fulfilling in ways I'd never experienced before. I'd also started teaching a weekend workshop for aspiring physical therapists at a local community college. Standing in front of a classroom, sharing my knowledge and passion for the field felt incredible. The students were eager and grateful, and I loved being able to guide them. My personal life had improved too. I was dating someone I'd met at the gym, a kind and straightforward guy named Patrick, who worked as a landscape architect. We'd been seeing each other for 3 months, taking things slow, and I appreciated how easy it felt. No games, no manipulation, no drama, just 2 people enjoying each other's company. One Thursday evening, I was at Megan's apartment for dinner. She'd made pasta, and we were sitting on her couch drinking wine and talking about nothing in particular. She knew about everything that had happened with Nicole, and she'd been my rock through all of it. "You seem really happy," she said, studying my face, like genuinely happy. Not just okay, but actually thriving. I smiled. "I am. I feel like I'm finally living my life on my own terms. You deserve it. After everything you went through, you deserve every good thing that comes your way. Thanks. I don't think I could have gotten through it without you. She waved a hand dismissively. You would have been fine. You're stronger than you think. We were interrupted by my phone buzzing. I glanced at it and saw an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello, is this Sarah? The voice was female, young, uncertain. Yes. Who is this? My name is Ashley. I'm Ryan's girlfriend. Well, ex-girlfriend now. I sat up straighter. Okay. What can I do for you? I need to talk to you about Nicole. Can we meet? I hesitated. I'd moved on from all of that. I didn't want to get dragged back into their mess. I don't really have anything to do with Nicole anymore. Please. It's important. She's doing the same thing to someone else. And I think you're the only person who can help. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. Of course, Nicole hadn't learned anything. Fine. When and where? We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop. When I told Megan what was going on, she frowned. Are you sure you want to get involved in this? No, but if she's scamming someone else, I can't just ignore it. You don't owe anyone anything, Sarah. You've already dealt with enough. I know. But if I can prevent someone from going through what I went through, I should at least try. The next afternoon, I met Ashley at the coffee shop. She was in her mid-20s with nervous energy and tired eyes. She ordered a tea, but barely touched it. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I know this is weird. It's fine. Tell me what's going on. She took a deep breath. I dated Ryan for about 4 months. We met at his gym and things moved pretty fast. He seemed great at first, but then he started asking me for money. Small amounts at first, then bigger. He said he was between jobs, that he needed help with rent, that his family was going through a tough time. How much did you give him? Almost $3,000. I felt a familiar anger rising in my chest. Let me guess. He promised to pay you back, and never did. Exactly. And when I finally confronted him about it, he got defensive and broke up with me. But here's the thing. I did some digging. I found out he's been seeing someone else, a woman named Nicole. My stomach dropped. They're back together, apparently. And from what I can tell, they're running the same scam on other people. I found a woman on social media who posted about lending money to Nicole for a family emergency and never getting it back. There might be others. I leaned back in my chair, processing this. Why are you telling me this? Because Ryan's sister Claire told me about you. About what you did. About how you took Nicole to court and won. She said you were the only person who'd ever stood up to her. What do you want me to do? Help me figure out how to stop them. I can't afford a lawyer and I don't know what to do. But if we can find other people they've scammed, maybe we can build a case together. I looked at Ashley's desperate face and felt something shift inside me. I'd moved on from Nicole. I'd built a new life. But hearing that she was doing the same thing to other people, that she hadn't learned anything, that she was still out there hurting people, it made my blood boil. Okay, I said. Let's figure this out. Over the next 2 weeks, Ashley and I became unlikely allies. We met several times, comparing notes and tracking down other people who might have been scammed by Nicole and Ryan. Ashley had found 3 other women through social media, all with similar stories. Nicole had befriended them, built trust, and then asked for loans that were never repaid. One was a coworker of Nicole's from her new retail job. She'd lent Nicole $1,200 for car repairs. Another was a woman from Nicole's gym who'd given her $800 for medical bills. The third was a former neighbor who'd been asked for $2,000 for an emergency vet bill for a dog Nicole claimed to have. When we contacted these women and explained what we were doing, they were all eager to help. They'd been too embarrassed to pursue legal action on their own, assuming they'd just been foolish. But knowing they weren't alone changed everything. We compiled all the evidence: transaction records, text messages, promises of repayment, excuses. The pattern was identical to what Nicole had done to me. She found vulnerable people, gained their trust, and exploited their kindness. Ashley and I met with my lawyer, bringing all 4 women with us. He reviewed everything carefully. "This is a clear pattern of fraud," he said, "with multiple victims. This goes beyond small claims. This is criminal fraud. You could file a police report." "Will they actually do anything?" one of the women asked. "With this much evidence and this many victims, yes, they'll investigate. And if they find enough to press charges, Nicole and Ryan could face serious consequences." We filed a report that week. The detective assigned to the case, a woman named Officer Ramirez, took us seriously. She reviewed our evidence, interviewed each victim separately, and assured us she'd follow up. "Cases like this take time," she warned us. "But you've done excellent work documenting everything. That's going to make our job much easier." While we waited for the investigation to progress, something unexpected happened. Nicole called me. I stared at my phone, debating whether to answer. I hadn't spoken to her since the court case ended, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, Sarah." Her voice was tight, strained. "We need to talk. We don't need to do anything. Please, I know you're behind this. I know you've been talking to people, spreading lies about me. I haven't spread any lies. I've told the truth. You're ruining my life. I've finally gotten back on my feet and now you're trying to destroy me again." "I'm not trying to destroy you. You destroyed yourself. You just won't stop hurting people. Those women are lying. They're exaggerating." "It wasn't like that. Nicole, there are 4 different women with the exact same story. All of them have proof. You can't lie your way out of this." There was silence on the other end. Then her voice changed, became pleading. "Sarah, please, if this goes any further, I could go to jail. Is that what you want? You want your own sister in jail? You're not my sister. You stopped being my sister a long time ago. How can you say that after everything? After everything? After everything you put me through? After all the times you used me, humiliated me, made me feel worthless? You don't get to play the family card now. I made mistakes. I know that. But I'm trying to change. By scamming more people. That's not change, Nicole. That's just more of the same. I needed the money. I was desperate. You're always desperate. You're always the victim. But you never take responsibility for anything you do." She was crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no guilt, no sadness. Just a cold certainty that I was doing the right thing. "Please, Sarah, I'm begging you. Tell them to drop it. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding. I'll pay everyone back. I promise. Your promises don't mean anything. They never did. What do you want from me? What do I have to do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. You made your choices and now you have to live with the consequences." I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful. For years, Nicole had controlled our relationship. She'd controlled when we spoke, what we talked about, how I was supposed to feel. But not anymore. 2 weeks later, Officer Ramirez called to tell us that charges were being filed against both Nicole and Ryan. The district attorney's office had reviewed the evidence and determined there was enough to prosecute. "It's going to trial," she said. "And with the evidence you've provided, I think you have a strong case." Ashley and I met with the other women to share the news. There was relief on their faces mixed with anxiety about what came next. "Thank you," one of them said to me. I never would have had the courage to do this on my own. You didn't need courage, I told her. You just needed someone to tell you that you weren't crazy, that what happened to you wasn't okay. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Well, thank you for being that person. The trial took place 4 months later. I attended as a witness along with the other victims. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, but the atmosphere was heavy with tension. Nicole and Ryan sat at the defense table, both looking diminished. Nicole wore a conservative dress and minimal makeup, clearly trying to appear sympathetic. Ryan stared at his hands. The prosecution laid out the case methodically. They presented our evidence, the text messages, the transaction records, the repeated pattern of behavior. They called each victim to the stand to tell their story. When it was my turn, I spoke clearly and calmly, describing what Nicole had done to me and how discovering she was doing it to others had prompted me to act. Nicole's lawyer tried to paint us as vindictive, as people with personal grudges trying to destroy an innocent woman, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning with a guilty verdict on multiple counts of fraud. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. When that day came, Nicole was given 18 months in prison with the possibility of parole after 12 months. Ryan received 15 months. They were also ordered to pay full restitution to all victims with interest. As the bailiff led them away, Nicole looked back at me. Her face was a mixture of anger and desperation, but I met her gaze without flinching. I felt no triumph, no joy, no vindication. Just a quiet sense of closure. Outside the courthouse, the other women and I stood together in the afternoon sun. Ashley hugged me. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." "You did it," I corrected. "You were brave enough to reach out. You started all of this, but you showed me it was possible. You showed all of us." We exchanged contact information and promised to stay in touch. As we went our separate ways, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because Nicole was going to prison, but because justice had actually been served. Because people who'd been hurt had been heard. Life moved forward. Patrick and I grew closer, and after a year of dating, we moved in together. It was a big step, but it felt right. He understood my need for independence, my weariness about family, my determination to build something different. My career continued to flourish. I was offered a position as director of rehabilitation services at a larger hospital in Aurora, which I accepted. The new role was challenging and rewarding, allowing me to shape programs and mentor dozens of therapists. I didn't hear from Nicole again, but I heard about her. She served her full 12 months before being released on parole. From what I understood, she moved to another state to start over. Ryan did the same. I hoped they'd learned something, but I doubted it. Some people never change. My parents reached out once after the trial, a brief email expressing disappointment in how everything had unfolded. They didn't apologize. They didn't acknowledge their role in enabling Nicole for so many years. They just said they hoped someday we could all move past this. I never responded, but I did rebuild relationships with other family members. My aunt on my dad's side reached out after hearing about the trial. She apologized for not seeing what was happening when we were younger, for not intervening. We started having lunch once a month, and those conversations helped me understand that not all family connections were toxic. 2 years after Nicole's sentencing, I was at a physical therapy conference in Seattle when I ran into Claire, Ryan's sister. We recognized each other immediately. "Sarah," she said, surprised. "How are you?" "I'm good. Really good." "You too. I'm glad I ran into you. I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For doing what needed to be done." Ryan needed to face consequences. It was the only way he was ever going to change. He's actually doing okay now. He got a job in construction. He's paying back his debts. He's finally taking responsibility. I'm glad to hear that. And I wanted to apologize for my family's part in all of it. I should have stepped in sooner. You did what you could when it mattered. That's what counts. We talked for a few more minutes before parting ways. It was a strange encounter, but not an unpleasant one. Looking back on everything, I sometimes wondered if I could have handled things differently. If I could have set boundaries earlier, walked away sooner, avoided the whole mess. But I realized that wasn't the point. The point was that I'd finally stood up for myself. I'd refused to be used anymore. And in doing so, I'd helped other people do the same. Nicole served her time and faded into obscurity, reportedly working low-wage jobs and struggling to rebuild any semblance of the life she'd once pretended to have. Ryan followed a similar path, and they never reconnected. The restitution payments came sporadically, but they came. The other women moved on with their lives, stronger for having stood up for themselves. As for me, I learned that revenge isn't about destruction. It's about refusing to be destroyed. It's about drawing a line and saying no more. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply living well, surrounded by people who value you, doing work that matters, and never again letting anyone make you feel small.